And now, it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle discussion designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life on CIL 650.
Hey, now all you've got to do is call. Lord, I'll be there. Yes, I will. You've got a friend.
Welcome to Boomer Life on CIL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Thanks for joining us today. And for the next hour, we're going to be having a conversation with the Alzheimer Society of British Columbia. We're going to be learning a lot more about their programs and their services and finding out the truth of why your donation to the society really matters. Joining me in the studio today is Maria Howard, CEO of the Alzheimer Society of BC. So thanks, Maria, again for being with us.
Thanks, Joanne. It's always great to be here.
So when we last connected with the Alzheimer Society, we were talking about some of the publications that were produced by the Society to stay in contact with people who have dementia and, of course, their caregivers as well. And the name of one of those publications was Insight. It's a document written specifically for people with dementia. It's the only one of its kind in Canada. We spoke with Ruth Stewart here at in the studio. She was a lovely person who is a caregiver to her husband. Was a caregiver to her husband before his passing. And Ruth talked about contributing articles for a second publication that the Society publishes called In Touch. And it's a newsletter specifically for caregivers. And Ruth spoke about how she found it meaningful to be able to use her own personal experiences on the dementia journey to help others who are traveling that same path. We also spoke with Eva Boberski, who works with the Alzheimer Society of BC, and she's responsible for putting together both of those publications, Insight and In Touch. On the show, we also spoke with Bill Durr and his incredible life story of first losing his sight with glaucoma, then losing his wife, and then climbing Mount Kilimanjaro with his son to raise funds for the Society's Anything for Alzheimer's initiative. Bill's story was amazing. Mm-hmm. Now for November, with the holiday season in clear view, it's a timely reminder that the Alzheimer Society of BC is a registered charity and depends on donations from the public like yourself to help offer support, education, and information for British Columbians who are currently living with the disease, also with their caregivers and their families. So if you're looking for more information online about what the Alzheimer Society of BC is all about, visit alzheimerbc.org. And if you have any questions about today's show, of course, call or visit the website. So Maria, maybe let's start off today's show by introducing the topic of planned giving.
Planned giving, all types of fundraising is so important for our society. The Alzheimer Society of BC is a provincial organization, which means that we provide programs and services and outreach to people all across the province. And that is something that we are very committed to, so that people living in the Lower Mainland or, in the North or in the Kootenays can have the same access to information that we know their family and they need to figure out this journey of Alzheimer's or dementia. We as a society predominantly raise our money through fundraising. So unlike a lot of charities, 80% of our revenue, of our dollars that come in the door, which then go out to people, are through our events participation, are through corporate sponsorships, and are through our private donors. So fundraising, planned giving, all those elements is hugely important to us because we want to ensure that we can continue to offer the programs and the supports that people need at no charge, actually, but that they have that, and they have that when they need it in the way that they need it based on their community and their own experience. So it's very, very important for us.
I'm really glad you mentioned the 80% because that's a question that a lot of people have about what percentage of funds raised do go back into the community and to support. I think it's a misconception. People think, charities raise all this money and it just goes to their own services and their own administration costs. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. It's also really important for people to keep in mind that there is a reason that the society is able to continue offering support, education, and information with no charge to the people who connect with that. What else can you share about the society and how people can help?
Well, certainly people can help through fundraising, through volunteering. Through the fundraising, we have a number of events that we run through the year, which is, focused on raising dollars for the Society for our programs, but also to support research and to raise awareness. So many people come out and participate in those events or help us organize and plan those events. We have a number of corporations who are very generous in their sponsorships and support us, and again, raising dollars and spreading the word about Alzheimer's and why it's really important for people to know that there is a society there to help them through this. And then we have a lot of very generous individuals, private donors who many have been touched by the disease themselves and understand the importance of, the help that they needed when they were going through that or while they're going through that, and want to give back to others who also really should have access to the support they need. So there are a number of different ways. Certainly on our website, we have lots of opportunities for people. The other really great thing that we offer throughout the province is our dementia helpline. And that's a phone line that anybody, again, in the province can phone to chat to someone about what they may be experiencing, concerns about maybe themselves, a family member, a friend. It's sometimes a person will phone and say, I'm going to my doctor. I don't know how to talk to my doctor. Can you help me think that through?
Mm-hmm. I don't know what to ask.
Absolutely.
I don't know what I don't know.
And what is normal aging and what is maybe something that's not normal. And so the dementia helpline is really important, and the fundraising also supports that dementia helpline. So again, it can be accessed provincially.
Mm-hmm. And I'll mention that dementia helpline number right now. It's 1-800-936-6033, and you can call that from anywhere in the province. So Maria, I know we've got an excellent show prepared for today, and we're going to be starting off with our very first guest, Kim Evans. And Kim is a caregiver for her husband, Jack, and she both uses the services of the Society and she is a donor.
Yes, Kim is a real dear supporter of the Society. She has a lot of energy and she understands what it is like to support people, and whether that's through volunteering and her generous donations. So I'm really glad she's on the show today.
And one of the biggest reminders that we have here at Boomer Life when we talk about Alzheimer's and dementia is, well, we have many, but the one that I want to focus on is the fact that you're not alone. And I think this is a really good example of one way that it's completely true. People wanting to ensure that other people have a safer, easier experience of the journey. So I'm very excited to speak with Kim today. And I'm also looking forward to another guest we have on the show, Colin Ritchie. Now, Colin is a legal expert who can actually speak to some of the mechanics around planned giving.
Absolutely. Colin brings an element of legal advice, which I think is really important to families when they're trying to make decisions about the best way that they can give back. And we always encourage people to ensure that they understand the different impacts and the decisions that they have available to them.
And then also on the show today, we're going to meet Susan Ray. And Susan works with yourself. Susan is the manager of the Society's resource development team, and she's going to be joining us here in the studio.
It's exciting to have Susan here. She plays a very key role in our society, ensuring that those individuals who are very supportive of us have the information and understanding of how they are making a difference, and connecting people who are receiving services with those people who are supporting services, because at some point we are all working together, and that communication is really essential.
Absolutely. It's all about starting that conversation and reminding our listeners that you're not alone in this journey as well. So I also look forward to hearing more from all of our guests today. And we're talking about why your donation matters today with the Alzheimer Society of British Columbia. In studio with myself is CEO Maria Howard. And if you have any questions about the Society, or if you'd like to find out more about their programs and services, or even how to make a donation, please visit their website, alzheimerbc.org. We're going to make a personal connection to the disease with our very first guest. That's coming up next on Boomer Life on CL 650.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
So give a little bit of my life.
And welcome back to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. We're spending an hour with our friends from the Alzheimer Society of British Columbia talking about why a donation to the society really matters. We're going to cover some areas about how they raise money, what it's used for, and we will hear from people in the community that have personally benefited from your support. Maria Howard is with us, CEO of the Alzheimer Society of BC. Thanks for joining us today. And we're going to say hello to our very first guest, which is Kim Evans. Hi, Kim. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thank you.
Now, from what I understand, Kim, you had a career in commercial banking before retiring a few years ago to become a certified life cycle celebrant in weddings and funerals. And that's someone who writes their own
customized ceremonies for couples or families, for really any celebrations people find important in their lives.
Well, that's quite a career switch. Complete different areas of complete different life directions.
Right on. It's a lot more fulfilling than banking.
So Kim is a primary caregiver right now for her husband, who was initially diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, which later progressed into a form of Alzheimer's disease. So Kim, maybe you could start us off by tell us a little bit about your husband and his journey, and your journey as well.
Right. I've been married for 26 years. My husband's older than I am, and about 10 years ago, I found he was getting forgetful and really struggling with some things that hadn't been a problem before. And because he was such a physically fit man, it led to a doctor's appointment where they diagnosed MCI, mild cognitive impairment. And that was in about 2000. And then in 2007, there was a more formal diagnosis of Alzheimer's. So it's been a slow journey. And, of course, you're always adapting. As my friends from the caregiver support group say, there's always a new reality. And that can be every 6 weeks or 3 months. It's like, okay, the individual can't do this now or is struggling in this area.
Was he a professional? Did he have a career as well?
He was a salesman, but he was a jock. He played ball, baseball, slow pitch, golfed, basketball, a number of sports activities that he really did well and enjoyed.
And maybe you could just give us an example of one or two things that you noticed that were different about him that made you question his health.
I guess the first thing I thought, was he stood in the kitchen with a glass that he'd taken out of the dishwasher, and he didn't know where to put it.
And it never came to him. He
just stood there. And then finally he did open a few cupboards and put it where it needed to go. And, of course, conversations that he couldn't recall. Don't you remember that we did this yesterday? No, don't remember. So that's when it's...
A few of the red flags.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, Kim, I mentioned earlier when I was speaking with Maria that you yourself, you've both donated to the society and you've actually used their services. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that. How did you actually make the connection with the Alzheimer Society?
When things started to become obvious to me, I reached out to Krista Frazee, who was the contact for me in Richmond, where we live, and she gave me about an hour of her time and was just wonderful and said I might consider coming to the caregiver support group. That was a little too early to digest that. But after a period of time, I thought, I'll just go and check this out. And the wonderful thing about the support group is that you are in a room full of people having very similar experiences than you, either more advanced or just beginning. And there's no obligation to speak, but the tips and the help, try this, try that, because everybody that suffers from dementia in any number of the forms it's all different. It can be hallucinations, it can be wandering, it can be incontinence, there can be a number of things. But it was just great, the tips that they were offering to help us.
What we've learned through our conversations about Alzheimer's disease, it's not just forgetfulness, is it?
No, correct.
It affects your entire life.
It affects your entire life, and personalities can change. People that are very gentle and sweet can become obnoxious, violent, and people that are very outgoing can, turn around and their world becomes very small.
So you made the connection with the Alzheimer Society and you went to one of their support groups. And did you apply some of those tips that you learned? Did you find it helpful?
Absolutely. Little tips like don't begin conversations with, well, remember when, or don't you recall, and become far more agreeable and distract an individual. If my husband wants to do something I just know is not possible, he wants to go to Britain and travel all over and drive, and I just say, well, that's something we should talk about maybe in the spring when the weather's going to be better over there, and then, 10 minutes later he's forgotten about it until a month later or whatever.
So you learn how to steer a conversation.
Correct.
So
and not feel guilty about doing that.
Oh yeah, well,
there's a lot of guilt when you sort of fib to your partner. Oh, we'll do that thing tomorrow, and you're not going to do it. Because a relationship between a husband and wife, a good relationship, is truthfulness.
I don't think those are true fibs, though. They're not necessarily white lies either. It's steering a conversation.
I guess that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now your husband's name is
Jack.
Jack. Okay. And tell us what it's like with Jack today. What it's like being the caregiver for Jack.
Well, he's, I would say, at mid-stage. His short-term memory is just gone. So there's an awful lot of repetitive conversations, things that he can't remember, things that he can't recall. And what's sad now for me, because I married later in life, I was 36 and he was 54, he doesn't remember the early parts of our marriage. He doesn't remember where we went on our honeymoon and those sorts of things. So, and a lot of his friends don't really know what to do either.
They've somewhat disappeared.
So
I know you've done something really great to encourage them to come back into his life. Tell us that.
Well, I wanted him to be able to hang out with his guy friends. My girlfriends are ready and willing and able to be with him. I don't know how happy he is about that. But he was...
well, if he was a jock, I'm sure he doesn't mind being surrounded by beautiful women.
He played international slow pitch for Canada in his 60s and 70s and loves the game, coached his daughters, played the game, baseball and slow pitch. And so I bought about 10 pairs of tickets to the Vancouver Canadians baseball games, and I reached out to his friends in Rotary. He's a staunch Rotarian, and said, please come and go to a game with Jack. He'd love to do that with you. And so they stepped up bold and fast and quick and had afternoons or evening games with him. And I had time in my house by myself. My husband doesn't wander, so I can go shopping if I want or go out for lunch with my girlfriends. But sometimes I just want to be in my own home. And this was a 3 or 4 hour break, and he loved it, and his friends loved it, and there was no expectation that he sit there and have a conversation other than the game.
Yeah. And it was a game he knew.
And
he can follow along.
Exactly.
I think the key here, it was a win-win for both of you, but also for somebody wanting to help a friend or a family member that has Alzheimer's or dementia. Nobody really knows what to do. Mm-hmm. And you created an opportunity and you somewhat told them what to do and how they could help. And it worked.
It did.
So the focus of today's show is all about donations and contributing and making donations to the Alzheimer Society or to your charity of choice. But why did you choose this society? I think it's pretty obvious, your husband Jack, but I think there's a bigger picture there.
There is a tsunami of dementia sufferers coming our way. And the fact that you can't diagnose it, the fact that the only treatment for it, as I know right now, is slowing it down a bit. And I even wonder, is that a good idea toward the end stages? And I don't know how much education there is in the world, in our communities, where people understand dementia and they're not so nervous about sharing their concerns. So, I mean, for example, if my husband broke his leg and he was in an orthopedic ward in the hospital, is the nursing staff and the doctors familiar with dementia and how that individual can be affected? So just understanding this disease at a grassroots level and being comfortable talking about it, the education that the Alzheimer Society provides is so beneficial. It's helped me. It's helped the men and women that I've met through the supportive groups. We need to get ahead of this, and I don't know how far down the road it's going to be, but it's definitely something I'd like to put the resources I can behind.
And is there something unique about the way you made a donation?
I volunteered for Walk for Memories, and I love to be there and meet the people that have worked with Alzheimer's sufferers, and we have the greatest conversations. It's lots of fun, and I give 10% of my gross income from my business to the society, and hopefully as my business grows, my donations will grow.
That's beautiful. What do you hope is going to be accomplished with your donation?
Awareness, research, education, and support for the caregivers. We need help, and we do want to keep our family members at home. But sometimes it's difficult, and you can't rely on your family and friends all the time. The resources that we need to keep our partners in the house sometimes are lacking.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today about why this is so important to you?
Well, I will tell you this. I wasn't going to speak of this because it's very new and very, very difficult to talk about. But last week, my husband was diagnosed with inoperable, non-treatable cancer, and he's got a few months to live. And after getting that news, two things happened. One is we cried, and I said, "I'm sorry, hon. I'm going to take care of you as best I can for as long as I can." And I left the hospital, went home, changed and showered, and had something to eat and came back around dinner time. And he was sitting in the bed, and he looked up at me and smiled and said, "So what's up? What's happening?" And I thought, what a blessing that he doesn't know. I've met my obligation to tell him ethically what's going on, but I don't have to keep telling him. I don't want to tell him. So I've told everybody, just, he's not well. He's recovering. He'll be okay. Well, I haven't said that, but he's recovering from an infection. And the other thing that happened to me was a sense of relief and freedom that this journey was going to come to an end, and he wouldn't be, and I can't say enough good things about the facilities that individuals go to at their end of life, but he won't be sitting somewhere not knowing who he is and who I am, and that I'll be able to walk with him these last few steps. And that's how insidious this disease is, that something like cancer is a blessing. He's a wonderful, wonderful man, and it was has been an honor to be his wife. We've had more fun than 2 barrels of monkeys, and we've laughed about some of the silliness that he gets up to with this disease, and now we're at the end of the road.
So you've made decisions and arrangements are in place to keep him with you and keep him at home?
Initially, I said to myself, I want him home for as long as possible. But because we have no family here and it's just me, I don't know how much I can do, but certainly services are in place to help me as long as I can. I want him with me, and that's my objective. I know he would do that for me.
And do you have any advice to pass along for somebody who might be in a similar position as yourself?
I do. First of all, if you have anywhere to reach out and go to a support meeting, we get together now. There's about 4 or 5 women that we get together once a month, and we have the most amazing conversations. We have such healing chats and a lot of laughs, because nobody, when you're married, the relationship between a husband and wife is different than that of a parent and a child or siblings. from the moment a person's born, you're always becoming independent, trying to become independent. You don't hope to live with your brothers and sisters or your parents all of your life. And while family's important and you stay connected, you're moving away. Then you choose a partner and hopefully you make the right choice. And you're always looking for that relationship to stay strong. And you're compromising, your humor cements things. Your relationship, if it's happy and healthy, is one that's really treasured. So my husband's leaving me, and he doesn't want to. He's kind of like in a rowboat, and I'm on the dock, and he's pushed himself away from the dock and pushed one oar out and then the other, and we're both standing there waving each other goodbye. And so the relationship between a husband and wife is it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking to experience this, especially when I was a spinster and there was one left. There was one left for me, and it was Jack. So, yeah. I would say reach out to the society, reach out to your friends. Don't be afraid of talking about this. It's important that you get as much help as you can, and tell your friends that, you need their help. Let them understand what they can do to help you. Just be open and willing, have your heart open, and, miracles will pour into your life. And, whatever I can do for the Alzheimer Society, whatever I can do for dementia sufferers, I would like to do. That's why I'm here today.
Kim Evans, thank you very much for sharing your story with us today.
You're welcome.
Kim has been speaking about her extremely personal experience of both donating to the Alzheimer Society of BC and using their services as her husband Jack has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Maria Howard is also with us today, CEO of the Alzheimer Society of BC, and we're talking about why your donation matters. We're going to get some professional advice on this matter. That's next on Boomer Life on CL 650.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. We're back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
The best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees.
Welcome back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Thanks for joining us today. We're in the studio with Maria Howard, CEO of the Alzheimer Society of British Columbia, and Kim Evans from Richmond is also sitting in she's a primary caregiver for her husband Jack, diagnosed with Alzheimer's it's a couple of years ago, right? Our conversation today is all about donating to the society, whether it's $5 or $500,000. Every penny counts, and we're here to help you understand why. But when it comes to donations, we have options of choosing planned giving through our wills and insurance policies. So we wanted to get some professional advice on this with our next guest. So let's say hello to Colin Ritchie on the phone. Hello, Colin.
Good afternoon. How are you all today?
Oh, we're doing great. And yourself?
Terrific, thank you.
Colin is our resident expert today. He's a lawyer who practices in wills, estates, and wealth preservation. He's also an independent financial planner. He's a former director of estate and financial planning for Sun Life. And Colin is also a contributing editor to Canadian Money Saver magazine. So, Colin, wonderful having you join us on the phone today. And you bring a wealth of expertise to the table. What else can you tell us about yourself?
I should have my girlfriend answering that one.
What would she say?
Independently. She would say I work independently with people in a variety of situations to help them achieve their goals as cheaply, as safely, and as simply as possible.
Would she say that you're a pretty nice guy?
Most of the time. Not every day, but most of the time, I think.
Good sense of humor?
I think so, but that's a personal opinion.
So, Colin, we typically start off by asking if people have a personal connection to Alzheimer's or dementia. And I'm wondering what led to your expertise with planned giving, working with people to give through insurance policies and wills to charitable organizations like the Alzheimer Society of BC.
Well, that's an easy one to answer. My own grandmother, my mom's mom, had dementia for at least 7 years. Of course, it's a series of stages, so I watched her and my whole family struggle with that. And so it's always been, it's always stuck with me, and it's nice to be able to help in any way, shape, or form to help other people in that situation and to hopefully one day have a cure so families don't have to suffer like that anymore.
So when it comes to planned giving, what are some of the questions that people should ask themselves when they're trying to make that decision about giving to a charitable donation as part of their legacy?
There's a bunch of things. I guess the first question is when. The second question is probably how much. A lot of people gift in wills or at the time of death, but my experience is that's great, but the charities often need money sooner rather than later as well. So when you're talking about when, it doesn't have to be now or then, it might be both. So that's one of the important questions. And in terms of how much, that's a balancing act. A lot of people donate at death because they have their own finances to worry about, and they want to make sure that they have enough for them and their own family, and they're gifting at death just because they don't have as many concerns about providing for other people at that time. So those are two of the bigger issues, when and how much.
So if somebody's already answered those, how does one go about following through on planning a donation like this? Do they need to contact someone like yourself, like a lawyer, to have it done?
Not necessarily. I think it's good to talk to a financial planner, but it's also really a great idea to talk to the charities themselves. A lot of them have gift planners in residence who can help people identify the best way and the best time of making a gift. One of the things about gifting, and this is coming from the financial planner perspective, is there are some really tax-friendly ways of doing it. So, like you were saying earlier, it's nice to gift as much as possible, and if you can save on the tax along the way, everybody wins except the government, and I'm okay with that.
Is there any tips you would like to share with us right now about a tax-friendly donation and how that's done?
One of the things that I love to talk to clients about is gifting publicly traded securities, mutual funds, seg funds, stocks, bonds, in their current form directly to the charities. What happens is the government has generously agreed to waive any capital gains people would have to pay at the time. Usually when you sell a stock and it's in a gain position, you have a capital gain that you have to declare on your tax return. But in cases like this, the government forgives the gain, but you get credit for what the stock was worth at the time of donation. So say you've got $10,000 worth of shares that you bought for $2,000. You get credit for a $10,000 gift, but you're skipping paying tax on the $8,000 of profits along the way.
Very interesting. Definitely write that one down to talk to your planner about. Maybe, Colin, can you speak about any challenges that one might face when making donations to a charity? Are there any considerations to have?
One of the things a lot of clients talk to me about is how the money is going to be used. People are very, very interested in that these days. So I think one of the challenges people have is making sure or satisfying themselves that the money is going to be used in the way that they want it to be used. Some people are big fans of research. Some people want it to be used for care and treatment. So I think for people who are interested in donating, it's great to not only talk to the gift planner, but to also ask questions about how the money is going to be spent, because I think a lot of the times the charities can accommodate those wishes as well.
Well, I think we might be able to get that question answered with our next guest. Don't you think, Maria?
Absolutely. It's really important to us as a charity to actually help make those connections between where people want to make a difference and making sure that happens.
And they can really specify exactly what they want the money to be used for. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to keep that in mind for when Susan comes to join us. Is there a minimum amount that has to be withdrawn or donated? Like you mentioned earlier, one of the biggest questions one has to ask is, when and how much. Can you really donate $5 or $500,000?
Oh, absolutely. I think as a rule of thumb, most charities want to see at least a $20 donation before they issue a tax receipt. But every little bit helps. For the bigger gifts, I think that's the situation where you need to invest in some more planning along the way to achieve the best result for yourself and for the charity. One of the things, too, that I think is a forgotten planning tool is donating life insurance policies. A lot of people maybe don't need the policies anymore during their life. They've got something that they paid for 20, 30, 40 years in order to protect their families, but say they're a widow or a widower at the time, and the protection isn't necessary going forward, and they don't like having to pay premiums each year for something that's not required. But in cases like that, people can donate the policies that they're not going to use, get a tax credit for what the policy would be worth on the open market, not what the cash value is. Sometimes these policies would pay you maybe $50,000 if you cashed it in, but for larger policies, what it's actually worth on the open market can be many, many times that. So I'm going off in a bit of a tangent, but one of the things that's important for people to look at is creative ways of gifting. That maybe if they're worried about how they can come up with money, talk to a planner, because there's examples like that where people have assets that are extremely valuable to other people that aren't valuable to themselves, and they can help, and everybody wins.
I don't think you went off in a tangent at all. I think you planted some really great seeds and some great ideas of how we can make giving an option, especially with the insurance policies. So what are the recommendations that you would make for a planned donation? Why is that so easy, and why would you recommend that?
Planned donation is the best way to go, just because the best chance of your money being used the way you want, and the best way of gifting tax effectively. So your money's going further in two ways. So it's an easy process. People are very passionate about what they want to do. They want to help you. And I think it's a win all around.
So when one makes answers the questions of when I'm going to make a charitable donation and how much I'm going to donate to charity, who's the first person they should talk to? Their banker, their financial planner, a lawyer? Where's the best place for someone to start?
I don't know if there has to be just one place to start first, but if I had 2 or 3 places to start, talk to the financial planner. They can identify assets that are the best assets to maybe gift, and talk to the charity. And it's also kind of a team effort along the way. If you've got a good planner, that person can also contact and work with the gift planner as well. So it's not just contacting one person, but kind of roping in a bunch of people, and they can work together to come up with the best solution that fits an individual situation.
It sounds great. Colin, you've made it sound very easy for us. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Oh, that's an open-ended question.
Yes, it is.
If you're thinking about gifting at all, I think it's worth a conversation. Contact a charity, just get some information, and just take it one step at a time. A lot of times the hardest step is the first one.
Thank you so much for your contributions to today's topic of why donations matter.
It's been my pleasure.
Colin Ritchie, independent financial planner and lawyer specializing in wills, estates, and wealth preservation. The Alzheimer Society of BC is going to introduce us to their very own resource development manager. That's up next on Boomer Life on CL 650.
His only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. We're back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Welcome back to the show. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, joined in studio today with CEO of the Alzheimer Society of BC, Maria Howard. Also, Kim Evans was with us. She just left. Kim is a caregiver for her husband who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And we're talking about donating to the society, why it's important, and how your money can actually help. Now, Kim spoke firsthand on that topic after needing and using the services of the Alzheimer Society of BC. Now, to help address this issue in a lot more detail, we welcome the Manager of Resource Development with the Alzheimer Society of BC. This is Susan Ray. Susan, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So Susan has 15 years experience helping people find meaningful ways of making a difference with the Alzheimer Society of BC. So Susan, it's really great to be able to speak directly with some of the team members from the society. Can you talk a little bit about what your actual role is as the Manager of Resource Development? What do you actually do?
I work with a small group of professional staff who are dedicated to working with people to help them find meaningful ways to make a difference. So it could be working with someone to make a legacy gift, to make a bequest in their will, like we've heard about from Colin. It could be making a one-time donation in memory of someone special. So there's lots of ways of making a difference, and my team is building relationships with the community to help people to understand what we do and how important it is, and to help them to realize some of their wishes and dreams for how they can make a difference.
So, Susan, what actually brought you to the Alzheimer's Society? We ask this of everybody who joins the show. Do you have a personal connection to Alzheimer's or dementia?
Like many people, I do. I grew up with two really close friends who both, or they each have a family member, a parent actually, who was diagnosed with young onset dementia. And so I've grown alongside them as they've gone through that journey. And so when I started with the Alzheimer Society, I felt very passionate about it. And as I learned more, I was able to help connect my friends with the supports that we have. And one of my friends started volunteering with the organization and donates. And she feels, as I do, very passionate about the organization. When she was, when her mom was diagnosed, her youngest sibling was only 13. So it really just shows how the whole family can be impacted by the disease. And so I feel really passionate about what we do and what I do as far as helping people to make donations to support others.
What a beautiful place to start, with helping two very close personal friends.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, in your role working with donors and the community, you're very uniquely poised to talk about the importance of giving back and how that money gets to be used. Can you talk a little bit about why giving back is so important and the impact that donations are having?
Sure. I think it's best told by some of the people that use our services. And I feel so privileged to have an opportunity to talk to people about how they've used our services or how they've benefited from the services that we provide. And so I think that those stories really can help to demonstrate how important it is. And as you've heard before, we really rely on the generosity of private donations. About 80% of our funding comes from private donations. And so everyone can make such an impact. When we hear things from people, for example, of course, we are thanking people when they make their donations. And we've heard many times where we call to say, thank you so much for your donation. We've heard, no, thank you. This is how you've helped my family. And we hear that, the organization is a lifeline to people in the community. They don't feel alone anymore. They're not feeling isolated if they can connect with our services. So, it doesn't take a lot. There's, for example, a gift of $10 a month can really make an impact to help us plan for the future. It gives us stability for the future. So it doesn't take a lot, but it can have a big impact. So whether it's small or big, there's someone here that really wants to talk to you and help you to achieve what you're hoping to do.
Well, I think we did establish that every penny matters. Absolutely. And when we were speaking with Colin Ritchie, the lawyer that was on the show just a few moments ago, he gave us a couple of great examples of how it doesn't have to be a legacy of, your entire worth or your entire estate. It can be a monthly donation like you just propose?
Well, and I think, as you mentioned too, sometimes people don't feel with the journey that they're on right now. They have other things that they're concerned about, financial constraints, and so it could be a gift now, but it could be planning for a gift in the future. And I think it's really important to be. Circumstances change along the way. So you may start out giving one way and then progress into something different. And that's my job, is to meet with people and to help them to figure out what's best for them.
So how easy is it to actually make a donation? Is it just a matter of a phone call and saying, I have an extra $10,000. Do you want it?
Absolutely. It is. It's you can go online to www.alzheimerbc.org and make a donation online. We're trying to make that an easier process for people. You can pick up the phone and call 1-800-667-3742 and ask to speak to someone directly, or just give your credit card number over the phone. And we're always happy to meet with people to hear those stories of how, we're helping them to, we want to just hear their story and how we can work together. So, I do think it's easy. And I think when an organization such as ours is trusted and respected, it's easy for individuals to get behind that and to feel that their money is going to a worthy place.
So another point that Colin raised when Colin, the lawyer we were just speaking with, Colin Ritchie, he said people are really concerned about how their money is going to be used.
Absolutely. And I think trust is in an organization, in the mission and the values of the organization, and being able to display that we're efficient and effective with the resources that we have. It's so incredibly important.
But do you get asked that question? How is my money going to be used?
Absolutely.
Or can I make it specifically for a program or a service?
Yeah, exactly. We talk to people about what's important to them. So is it research? Is it helping people to, to find the causes in a cure, or to help provide research for quality of life now? Or, if someone's really interested in helping our programs and services, whether it be a support group or one of our Minds in Motion programs, we are absolutely interested to hear what's important and trying to help designate that gift in the right way.
Do you have any examples of how gifts have been made in the past? Or
Yeah, let me think of an example. I worked with a family for a very long time, and met with them many times on a more complex example of a legacy gift. And they were very interested in having half of their funds support research and half of their funds support our programs and services. So we were able to work out something over a couple of meetings that suited them and really was going to be an impact for the organization. This family is an important one to me. I started working with him about 5 years ago, and it was a fellow who was caring for his wife at home, and he was able to keep her at home through her entire journey. And he learned, how to do all those things that he didn't cook before, and he learned how to do
the laundry and the ironing,
and laundry, and
all the household chores.
Even the more things that you don't talk about, like how does someone go to the bathroom and help his wife to do that. And so he was very open with me about those challenges. And so the many challenges he had, we had such a bond that I sort of lived with them through that process of making a donation. And after his wife passed, we continued to meet, and he was able to honor her memory through this legacy gift. And he's now since passed away, and his children are continuing the relationship with us.
With yourself. Isn't that amazing? So when you say you lived with them through that journey, you really held their hand and embraced them as a family.
Absolutely. It becomes personal.
I can hear that from your story. Susan, do you think you could give us an example of the importance of giving, why it's so important for someone from the community to make a donation to the Alzheimer Society, and maybe the impact that donation might have on the community and your programs and services?
Absolutely. I think a good way to demonstrate that is to maybe give an example with some dollars attached.
That's
so
perfect.
For example, a gift of $500 can provide a support group for a caregiver for a year.
Wow.
A gift of $1,000 can provide support for a person at the early stages of dementia for a year. And another example would be a gift of $10,000 that can help us to educate healthcare providers across BC. And those are just an example of the kinds of things that we offer across the province.
Oh, it's a good cross section. Susan, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us today about planned giving, making donations to the Alzheimer Society, and why it's so important?
Well, I would just say personally, I have been a monthly donor for 5 years to the Alzheimer Society. That's how important it is to me. And I really encourage others to think about what's important, to talk to us. It's the time of year where I know that you're probably thinking about how you'd like to give back, maybe make a gift to the Alzheimer Society. So I ask you to pick up the phone and join us and help others.
So with Christmas on the horizon, is this a good time of year to donate, ladies?
Absolutely. I think any time of year is a good time to donate, but Christmas is certainly a time when we stop and think about what's important to us and why, and how we can continue to make a difference. And I know that, as Susan shared, many people have participated in our services, and we've been there to help them through this tough journey. And so we appreciate them giving back to us so we can take that support and give it to another family who will need that too.
So I will encourage you as a listener, if you have any questions about today's show or possibly making a donation to the Alzheimer Society of BC, please phone the Society. Susan, you can either talk to them directly or some member of your team.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to, and we look forward to chatting with you.
And more information, of course, is available online, alzheimerbc.org. Thanks to you for sharing with us today, Susan.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of our guests today, talking about why your donation truly matters to the Alzheimer Society of BC. CEO Maria Howard was here, Susan Ray, Manager of Resource Development, Kim Evans, sharing her very personal story about her husband, Jack, was speaking with us today about making a donation and how she personally has benefited from the programs and services of the Alzheimer Society. And of course, to our independent financial planner and lawyer, Colin Ritchie, who passed along some great advice on how to make donations through our wills and through insurance policies and get some tax benefits as well. For any questions you might have, once again, please phone or visit the website. I'm Joanne Sutton. Just want to say thank you very much for joining us today on Boomer Life on CL 650.